Have you ever felt that chill that runs down your spine when hearing a powerful message, almost too true to be ignored? Imagine opening a book over 2,000 years old and discovering words that still resonate today. Welcome to the book of Isaiah. You know, among all the books of the Bible, this one is often considered the most terrifying. But why? And what lies behind this reputation? Stay with me until the end, and I promise the revelation will shock you and change your perspective forever. Isaiah, prophet of the 8th century before Jesus Christ, wasn't there to reassure or flatter. He arrives, and right from the start, he announces God's glory, but also his judgment. He's not afraid to ask a direct question. Are you ready to face divine purity, absolute justice? And that's where it becomes personal, the beginning of. His book shows us God's overwhelming holiness. In a vision, his garments fill the temple, and everything trembles around. What an image! Do you feel it? The intensity of this moment immediately propels us into a sacred place, but also terrifying. And here's one of the first key messages. God is not a kindly grandfather. He is holy, he is just, and he sees our foundations corroding. Now imagine yourself in your daily life. You say you're good, generous, but God sees the hypocrisy, the guilty silences, the fear of standing up for truth. Isaiah calls it, this people with honeyed lips, but whose heart is far away. He denounces corruption, injustice, leaders who abuse power. And it's at this moment that it becomes truly intense. He predicts the fall of powerful nations, including his own Jerusalem. One of my favorite passages, which chilled my blood the first time I read it, is when he says that mountains will melt like wax before Yahweh. You imagine the mountain, symbol of stability, and now see it disappear. A dizzying chaos, a trembling that touches not only men, but all creation. But pause. Here, I ask you a question. Could what you're reading apply to our world? Think about it. Power misused, injustices, abuses. Isaiah's vision as a mirror. Simple question. When you see a scandal, a lie, do you truly turn toward the light? And as the book progresses, we feel a terrifying crescendo. He stages implacable judgment, not a fable, not a gentle parable. He speaks of a devouring fire, of falling nations, of God counting the days. We're almost in a cosmic thriller. But what's the point? To awaken, to question, to provoke radical change. When Isaiah says, "Awake, you who sleep," it's an existential alert for each of us. DOU. Feel this powerful breath that runs through this message. This great cry, wake up, rise up, turn around. It may be terrifying, but it's also an invitation. We don't flee, we face it. We stand up. And that's what makes all the hidden beauty of this merciless book. Tell me, does something in you resonate with this urgency? Is there an area in your life where you've closed your eyes, lowered your head, closed your heart? I invite you to let the book of Isaiah question your courage. Because yes, it's terrifying. But in truth, it's a light that flushes out the shadows. Let's continue this journey together. After triggering this alarm, Isaiah doesn't stop there. He follows with promises of restoration, flashes of light in the chaos. It's a striking contrast. He announces destruction, then paints a portrait of healing, of people gathered, of nations drawn by Jerusalem's light. Imagine a world where, in the midst of ruins, a small branch grows. A new promise, a descendant who will bring peace, justice. And this branch is the vision of the one called the suffering servant. In Isaiah 53, we see a man mistreated, rejected, who takes upon himself everyone's pain. It's of incredible emotional depth. Do you feel the weight of this man who, is wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. It's an absolute. Humanitarian cry. Micro stories come to mind. Imagine a child in a schoolyard, humiliated for an act he's not responsible for. But who accepts suffering so others might be relieved? This image breaks your heart, and it amplifies the message even more. In the midst of horror, there is sacrifice, love, and action. I have a question for you. In your relationships, can you embody this servant? It would be an immense act of courage to forgive, to extend your hand when everything pushes you to close the door. Are you ready to deviate from the norm, to go against the current? And Isaiah doesn't stop there. He speaks of peace, of nations that cease brandishing the sword, of children playing on the serpent's nest. It's poetic, but it's not an inaccessible dream. It's an invitation. A vision that calls for your involvement. You want peace? Start. With your heart, weaving all this together, Isaiah creates a journey. Confrontation, revelation, restoration. It's a narrative arc of dramatic power, almost cinematic. And I want you to feel this transformation within you. If you let yourself be walked over, if you keep silent in the face of injustice, this book will drive you into your entrenchments. But if you dare respond to the call, you'll see new hope emerging. You know, the more I reread Isaiah, the more I realize he's not just addressing an ancient people. He's speaking to me, to you, to each of us. This isn't just a book of threats or apocalyptic visions. It's a cry from the heart, a desperate attempt by a prophet to awaken a sleeping people. And you want me to tell you the truth? We're sometimes exactly like them. We think everything's fine because we have our routines, our comfort, our moral principles neatly arranged. But Isaiah comes to blow a wind of reality. He shakes the dust from our souls. He puts us before the mirror. This mirror is sometimes hard to look at. It shows you what you avoid, what you push away, what you hide under layers of justification. But if you dare to stare at it for a moment, something miraculous happens. What you dreaded becomes the starting point of true renewal. That's Isaiah's paradox. What seems to be a destructive fire is actually a purifying light. What you thought was condemnation is often an opportunity to start over, differently, sincerely, with depth. And that reminds me of this powerful phrase from the prophet. Behold, I will do a new thing. Do you not perceive it? As if God himself were telling us, you've seen the ruin, you've heard the judgment, you've felt the weight of your faults. But now, look, I'm preparing a way. I'm making a river spring forth in your desert, you know. These deserts we all cross one day. These periods of emptiness, doubt, fall. Isaiah knows them. He speaks of them. But he also affirms that the desert is not the end. It can become a passage to a promised land. If you choose to walk through it with truth, what if we stopped fleeing from this kind of text? What if, instead of being afraid, we chose to listen, to open ourselves? Because deep down, Isaiah is not only the prophet of judgment. He's also the prophet of hope. He announces the most beautiful of miracles, a God who comes to meet us, who humbles himself, who takes our pain upon himself. And this God doesn't speak with lightning and thunder. He comes as a servant, in silence. He heals, he lifts up, he consoles. That's the other face of Isaiah's fire. It burns what is false, but it warms what is true. So here it is. If you've made it this far, it's not by chance. Maybe a part of you has been touched. Maybe a verse has disturbed you. Maybe you've felt an echo in your story. I don't know your journey, but I know one thing. You weren't created to live asleep. You were fashioned for light. And sometimes, you have to cross through shadow to learn to recognize it. Isaiah doesn't invite you to be afraid. He calls you to rise up, to reposition yourself, to choose a life that has weight, meaning, fire.so. Now, I'd like to ask you one last question. A simple one, but powerful. What has Isaiah said to you? Not what you've learned or heard, but what you have felt there listening to him. Is there something you need to let go? Something you need to confront? Something you need to rebuild? Even in the heart of the storm, there's always a voice. A voice. Crying in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord. Maybe that voice is speaking to you now.